Hey everybody, this is Mike Mitchell with Progressive Church Media, and in this tutorial I want to be a little more strategic and have you just kind of think through some things. A lot of churches, actually I just read a report the other day that said 82% of churches around the country have reported that they have shifted their worship to online during this time of pandemic. And what that means, among other things, is that churches are creating a lot more digital content than they ever have before. Which is a wonderful thing. What I'd like to challenge you today in this tutorial to think about is how can you repurpose and reuse that content in as many ways as possible. You're going through a lot of effort to create it. Let's think through what are the really cool ways that you can use it. And so that's what this tutorial, which is maybe not quite the same as the regular tutorials that I do, hopefully will get you to think about that. So what I'm going to do is analyze a typical online worship service from Virginia Highland Church in Atlanta. If you follow along with me at all on these tutorials, you'll know I often reference VHC. It's a place very dear to my heart, and if you ever are in Atlanta on a Sunday, I encourage you to go and visit that wonderful community of faith. But I'm going to take a look at their worship service, which is probably similar to things that you are doing, and we'll talk about how we could repurpose elements of that worship service in all kinds of cool ways. Now, this is kind of the intro section that I'm showing you here. What I want you to notice, among other things, is they've made a commitment to close caption every part of their service. Now, granted, that takes a lot of work, but they have really tried to live out their mission of being a very inclusive church and welcoming to everybody, and closed captioning their services online is one of the ways that they do that. But there are some other things that they do as well that I'll point out along the way. Okay, with all apologies to Reverend Laney, I'm going to fast forward through some of this. It's all brilliant what he says, but we've got to keep the tutorial on track. So let me skip ahead to the hymn of praise. Okay, so we are in the hymn of praise, and one of the things I want you to notice here is they are using this app called Acapella. Now, like their choir, their musicians can't get together physically in person, and so they're using this app, which you can download from any app store, that allows you to have all of your musicians, your vocalists, record a song asynchronously. So, everybody can kind of record it, their part of it, at their own time and their own pace, and then it can all be pulled together into one cohesive thing. It's a really cool thing. It allows them to still use their musicians, but do it in a way that's safe. But here's the point of this, is this little chunk of content, this hymn of praise, could be edited down, and just this piece might be something that during this following week they would post on social media, just kind of as a refresher, pick-me-up kind of thing to kind of give people some inspiration and a smile during the week. And that's one of the things I want you to think about, is how you can deconstruct your worship service and kind of repurpose content for other things. So one example would be taking one of your pieces of music and reposting it, letting people share it again, relive it again during the coming week. Let's go ahead and let's skip on to the next section. Okay, so we've skipped ahead in the service, and now we're at the part of the service where they're doing a children's message. So they have decided, even in online, they're going to continue that. Here's the thing I want you to notice that they have structured these so they're very visual. You can kind of see they're playing with this idea of Leia having the camera the wrong way. It's actually really clever. Again, I apologize. We're not going to have you listen to all of it, but you can go online and find this. But again, my point here is this is another piece of content, this children's message, that could be edited down into its own self-contained chunk and then saved and shared during the week. Maybe you designate, every Wednesday at a certain time you're going to post something specifically for the kids in your community. This would be a really easy way for you to repurpose something you've already done and share it, and that way hopefully an even larger audience will see it. Let's keep going. I'm going to fast forward again and take you to another part of the service. Okay, here again is another example of another piece of special music. In this case, they're actually using special music from a Police song, Message in a Bottle. But again, this is another piece of self-contained content that could be edited down and then shared out, again, at various times on social media. So I hope you're kind of getting the idea here is even in this one worship service, we already have multiple pieces of content that could be repurposed or reused, shared again to again, hopefully get to an even larger audience online. Let's keep going. Okay, so now we are at the actual sermon. And again, I'm not going to have you listen to the whole thing here, but again, this is another piece of content that could be repurposed. And I actually did another tutorial where I used this same sermon as an example to show that not only could you edit this down and post this video online, you can also take that video, extract just the audio from it, and post that as a podcast. There are a lot of people, myself included, especially during this time of quarantine, I have been finding myself taking daily walks every day and just listening to podcasts as a way, frankly, to stay sane. And so there are lots of tools. That other tutorial goes into all of that. But again, this sermon is a piece of content that you need to think about. How are all the ways that you can reuse this and reach a wider audience? Let's keep going. Okay, so now we are toward the end of the service. This is when they are doing virtual communion, which is kind of a clever way that they have this structured on the screen. But the point of this video is really to talk about and just to get you to maybe think a little bit about the stuff you're already doing, especially in this time of online worship, and really making the most of that. People are working hard and putting in a lot of effort to do worship online. So my point to all of this is really step back and think about how can you leverage that content you're creating to reach as many people as possible. I hope these ideas give you some inspiration. If your church is doing something really cool that you're proud of along these lines, again, I love it when people send me messages and tell me. It really kind of makes my day and makes me smile. So please, if you're doing anything that you're really proud of, send it to me, and maybe I can brag on you a little bit. I hope this helps. Take care. Stay safe.